All right, get ready because today we're taking a deep dive into Anoma.
It's Anoma.
Which is a project that's not just messing around with blockchain.
Right.
It's trying to build a whole new decentralized operating system.
Yeah.
We're using an interview with Adrian Brink, one of Anoma's co-founders.
Okay.
And he paints a really fascinating picture of the future.
He does.
When I first started reading about Anoma, I was a little lost.
Yeah.
Is it a blockchain?
A blockchain.
Is it a framework?
A framework.
What is it?
Imagine like an operating system like Windows,
Okay.
but for decentralized applications.
Okay.
That's basically what Anoma wants to be.
I see.
It wants to abstract away the differences between the different blockchains. So developers can build an app once and deploy it on Ethereum, Solana, or even like a dedicated Anoma chain.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that level of flexibility make things super complicated for developers?
Well, that's a good question.
It seems like a huge learning curve.
Well, Anoma is designed to be modular.
Okay.
Meaning that developers can choose their level of complexity.
I see.
So you want to keep it simple. You want to deploy it to Ethereum. You can still get a lot of the advantages of Anoma.
Okay.
Like those intents that we'll talk about later.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about intents.
Yeah.
That's what really caught my attention.
Intents.
Instead of saying all the steps of a transaction,
Yeah.
you just express the outcome you want.
The outcome, right?
Like saying, I want a pizza,
a pizza.
instead of explaining all the steps to make it.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So intents allow for more flexible actions across different chains and assets.
Different chains and assets.
For example, you could trade an NFT
Okay.
for a combination of ETH and USDC
ETH and USDC.
in multiple platforms.
Oh, wow.
And you can say, I want to prioritize speed,
Speed.
or I want to prioritize privacy,
Yep.
and the system will figure out how to execute that.
Yeah, it's like a superpowered smart contract
Uh-huh.
that understands your goals.
Yeah.
Not just the technical steps.
So how does that solve problems like MEV,
MEV.
where miners can manipulate transactions
Oh, that's a good question.
for profit?
So think of it this way.
Okay.
Intents shift the focus from how a transaction is executed
Okay.
to what the end state should be.
The end state.
Yeah, so it's like saying, I want to end up with a pizza.
I want a pizza.
I don't care how the delivery guy gets it to me.
Interesting.
So it makes it harder for people to game the system
Okay.
because you're saying this is the outcome I want.
That's really clever.
Yeah, it is.
So Anoma is taking this idea of intents
Intent.
and making it a core part of its architecture.
Right.
But haven't other systems tried to use intents before?
Well, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Things like Gnosis Safe multi-sigs and even some roll-ups use intent-like features.
Okay.
But Anoma generalizes it.
Okay.
It takes this concept
Yeah.
and makes it a fundamental part for a wider range of decentralized applications.
So it's scaling it up.
Scaling it up.
Now, Adrian Brink seems really passionate about decentralization and privacy.
Decentralization and privacy.
Why does he think these are so important?
Well, Brink argues that decentralization is essential for resilience,
Okay.
to make sure systems can't be easily controlled or censored. He even used this crazy phrase, World War III resilience,
World War III resilience.
describing how local Anoma instances could keep working,
Okay.
even if global networks were disrupted.
Wow. Intense, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty intense way to put it.
Yeah.
So where does privacy fit into all of this?
Well, Brink sees privacy as important,
Right.
not just for individuals, but for communities and even national defense.
National defense.
Yeah. He highlights the risk
Okay.
of people using blockchain data for bad purposes.
Yeah.
Which is a scary thought.
That is concerning.
But we know regulators don't always like privacy-focused solutions. How does Anoma deal with that?
Anoma doesn't force privacy on everyone.
Okay.
It lets you do private transactions if you want to.
So it's an option.
It's an option.
It's not like the whole system is private.
Exactly. You have the choice.
That's more nuanced than I expected.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Namada.
Namada is a new blockchain
Okay.
built by the Anoma community,
Uh-huh.
and it focuses on privacy.
Okay.
So it's like a shield
A shield
for your assets.
For assets.
Tokens, NFTs, data.
Interesting.
It keeps them private.
So like a secret vault for your crypto.
Yeah, like a secret vault. Yeah.
Give me a real world example.
Okay, so imagine you're an art collector
Okay.
and you want to buy an NFT,
All right.
but you don't want to link it to your Ethereum wallet
I see.
with all of its history.
Right.
Namada will let you hide that purchase.
So nobody knows what I bought.
No one knows what you bought.
Okay, that's cool. But Nomada does more than just private transactions, right?
Right. It has something called shielded action,
A shielded action.
which can let you do things like participate in governance on other chains,
Oh, wow.
but without revealing your identity.
So I could vote on proposals,
You could vote.
but stay anonymous.
Stay anonymous, yeah.
That opens up a lot of possibilities,
A lot of possibilities.
especially for people who care about privacy.
For sure.
It seems like Anoma and Nomada
Yeah.
are pushing the limits of what you can do with privacy
Yeah, they are pushing the boundaries
in the crypto world.
in the crypto world.
Now, Adrian Brink also talked about the future of banking.
The future of banking.
And he said that more regulation
More regulation.
would actually make people want to use crypto more.
Oh, interesting.
How does he see that happening?
He thinks that as regulations get more complicated and expensive, banks are going to have a harder time serving certain customers, people with smaller balances or more complicated needs. And that's where crypto comes in.
So crypto steps in.
And offers a better solution.
It's like that classic innovator's dilemma,
Innovator's dilemma.
where the big companies can't keep up.
Right.
And new players disrupt the market.
They disrupt it.
So these regulations are meant to protect people,
Protect people.
but they might actually be pushing people
Pushing them away.
toward alternatives like Anoma.
Alternatives like Anoma.
Yeah. Anoma is about making a financial system
Yeah.
that's not just resilient and efficient,
Resilient, efficient.
but that really cares about privacy
Privacy is key.
and control for users.
Yeah, user control.
Something that traditional systems are struggling with.
They are struggling.
I'm still trying to understand Brink's World War III resilience thing.
World War III resilience, yeah.
It's a dramatic way to say it,
Dramatic, but true.
but it shows how fragile our financial system really is.
Fragile, yeah.
We rely so much on global networks
Global networks.
and big institutions.
Big institutions.
Like, what if there's a huge disruption?
Disruption.
A war, a natural disaster,
Unnatural disaster.
or even a cyber attack.
A cyber attack.
Everything could collapse.
It could collapse.
Anoma's approach is like a backup generator.
A backup generator, yeah.
And for your money.
For your money.
So even if everything else goes down,
Goes down.
some communities can still function.
They can keep going.
Are there other benefits to this kind of resilience?
Benefits, yeah, definitely.
Besides the doomsday scenarios.
Think about countries that don't have good banks.
Okay.
Or places with unstable governments.
Unstable governments.
Or economies.
Economies.
Anoma could help those people
I see.
get access to a better financial system.
So it's not just about surviving a disaster.
That's just survival.
It's about making finance more fair.
More fair
And accessible for everyone.
for everyone.
Brink also mentioned something a bit scary.
Oh, what is that?
How neobanks and fintech companies could be attacked.
Attacked.
Especially with all this new AI.
AI, yeah, that's a big concern.
AI can create fake people.
Fake people, yeah.
And fake identities.
Fake identities that look so real.
It looks so real.
It's hard to tell what's real anymore.
Exactly.
So those know your customer rules
Know your customer.
might not work so well anymore.
They might not.
Does that mean we can't trust our digital identities anymore?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
That's where self-custody comes in.
Self-custody.
Brink thinks people should hold their own private keys.
Their own P's.
Yeah, so they don't have to rely on big companies.
So I become my own bank.
You become your own bank, exactly.
This fits with Anoma's idea of giving users more power.
User empowerment.
It's about taking power away from big institutions.
From big institutions.
And giving it back to individuals and communities.
To the people.
And this connects to privacy, too.
It's in privacy, yeah.
We usually think of privacy as hiding our information.
Hiding information.
From companies or the government.
Right.
But it's also about protecting ourselves. Protecting ourselves.
From hackers and attacks.
From attacks, yeah.
It's like building a fortress.
A fortress.
Around your financial activity.
Around your money.
Not because you're doing anything wrong.
Not doing anything wrong.
But because you want to stay safe.
Stay safe.
In a world full of data breaches.
Data breaches.
And cyber attacks.
Cyber attacks.
But how does Anoma balance this need for privacy with concerns about crime?
That's the big question.
Which is what people always say about privacy tech.
That's the argument against it, right?
Yeah, seems like a tough balancing act.
It is a tough balance.
So Anoma's solution is to give you the tools for privacy.
The tools are there.
But not force you to use them.
You choose.
You can choose how private you want to be.
Exactly. It's about options.
It's not one size fits all.
Not one size fits all.
Okay, so back to Nomada.
Back to Anoma.
And its way of doing privacy.
Right.
What makes it different from other privacy blockchains?
Well, Nomada shields all sorts of assets.
All sorts of assets.
It's like a privacy layer.
A privacy layer.
On top of other blockchains.
I see.
You can move your tokens, your NFTs, even your data into a private space.
But I don't need a special privacy coin.
You don't need a special coin.
Nomada just lets me shield anything I want.
Anything you want.
How does that even work?
It uses fancy cryptography.
Cryptography?
Zero-knowledge proofs.
Zero-knowledge proofs.
Secure multi-party computation.
Secure multi-party computation.
All that good stuff.
Can you break down zero-knowledge proofs for me?
Yeah, imagine you want to prove you have enough money.
Enough money.
To buy something.
Okay.
But you don't want to say exactly how much you have.
Okay.
That's what zero-knowledge proofs do.
That's interesting.
You prove something is true without revealing the details.
So like saying, trust me, I have enough money.
Trust me, I'm good for it.
I'm good for it.
Without showing your bank statement.
I get it.
Yeah.
So how does this apply to Nomada?
When you shield an asset on Nomada, you're creating a proof that you own it.
Okay.
But no one knows the details.
The details are hidden.
They're hidden.
So I can do stuff with my assets.
You can trade, you can use them.
But keep everything private.
Stay private.
That's really impressive.
It is pretty cool.
And you mentioned secure multi-party computation.
Yeah, multi-party computation.
What's a real-world example of that?
Okay. Let's say there's an auction on Nomada.
An auction?
You can bid.
Okay.
But nobody knows how much you bid.
A secret auction.
A secret auction.
That's awesome.
It is cool.
Nomada is pushing the limits.
Pushing the limits.
Of privacy in decentralized systems.
It's groundbreaking.
But all this tech is only as good
as
the people behind it.
As the people.
What does Brink say about the Anoma community?
Brink says community is everything.
Everything.
He sees Anoma as a collaboration.
A collaboration.
Developers, users, researchers.
All working together.
All working together.
To build a system that reflects their values.
Shared values.
So it's not just a small group.
Not a small group.
Of engineers making all the decisions.
Right. No, it's much bigger than that.
The community has a voice.
The community's voice is important.
And Brink thinks this is how you make a system.
How you make a system.
That can adapt and survive.
Adapt and survive.
And stay true to its users.
True to its users.
It's not just about better tech.
Not just tech.
It's about building a better future.
A better future.
Where people have more control.
More control.
Privacy.
And more opportunity.
More opportunity.
To be part of a fair system.
A fair system for all.
That's inspiring.
It is inspiring.
But let's be real. Changing the whole system.
The whole system.
Won't happen overnight.
No, it takes time.
What are some of the challenges Anoma might face?
Challenges? Oh, there are many.
Okay.
One of the biggest is adoption.
Getting
developers to use the platform.
Okay.
And users to actually use it. To use it.
That's not easy.
So you need to show them.
Show them the value.
Why Anoma is worth it.
Why it's worth it.
Build a strong community.
A strong community.
And solve real problems.
Solve real problems.
What else?
Well, there's also the regulations.
Regulations.
Governments are still figuring out.
They're still figuring it out.
How to deal with crypto.
Crypto is new.
It's new.
And blockchain.
And
Anoma is all about privacy.
Privacy is key.
Which might worry regulators.
They might worry.
You want to stop crime.
They want to stop crime.
So finding that balance between giving users control and following the rules will be crucial for Anoma. And then there's the technical stuff. Anoma is complex.
It's complex.
So it's modular.
Modular, but complex.
It might be hard for developers to learn.
It could be a steep learning curve.
So you need to make it easy to use.
Easy to use.
For
developers.
And for everyone.
And
don't forget security.
Security.
Anoma deals with money.
It's about money.
And sensitive information. It needs to be super secure. So it's a lot of challenges. Building the platform. Making it user-friendly. Dealing with regulation. Building a community.
And keeping it safe. Not easy.
Not easy at all.
But the potential is huge.
If Anoma
can do all of this,
If Anoma can do it,
it could change everything.
Change everything.
About how we use decentralized apps.
Decentralized apps.
And the future of finance.
Yeah, future of finance.
It's exciting to think about.
It is exciting.
But before we go too far,
okay,
I have a question for our listener.
For the listeners.
We've talked about all the technical details.
With the details.
And the potential benefits.
The benefits.
And the challenges.
Challenges, but Anoma is really about something bigger.
Something bigger.
It's about how we think about power.
Privacy?
Privacy.
And control in the digital world.
In the digital world.
Do we want to keep going?
Keep going.
With centralized control?
Centralized control.
And data being used against us?
Data being used against us.
Or we want something different?
Something different.
Something where individuals have more power.
More power to the individual.
Over their digital lives.
Their digital lives.
The Anoma shows us.
Shows us a way.
That this other future is possible.
It's possible.
A future where privacy is a right.
Privacy is a right.
Where communities are strong.
Strong communities.
And people control their own money.
Control their own money.
It's a powerful vision.
It's a powerful vision.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
okay,
let's take a break.
A break.
And come back to finish
draw
Adrian Brink's interview.
Brink's vision. So welcome back to our deep dive into Anoma.
Back into Anoma. Before we go deeper into like the implications of this whole decentralized future thing,
okay,
I wanted to go back to something you said earlier.
Okay.
This idea that regulation, which is usually seen as like a bad thing,
right,
could actually help crypto get adopted faster.
Yeah, it seems counterintuitive.
It does.
But I'm starting to see how it could happen.
I think you're right.
Traditional financial institutions, with all their old systems.
Yeah.
And all the regulations they have to follow. Regulations.
They might have trouble keeping up with the crypto world.
Yeah, it's moving so fast.
It moves so fast.
And crypto is all about being innovative.
Innovation is key.
Think about fintech and those new online banks.
The neobanks.
They popped up because they offered something different.
Something different?
Faster, more convenient.
More convenient.
Cheaper. They filled the gaps that traditional banks left. The gaps.
But as they get bigger, they also get more regulated.
More regulation.
Which is ironic because regulations slow them down.
They slow them down.
And that's what made them successful in the first place. Their speed.
So it's like a trap.
A trap.
The regulations meant to protect people.
Protect the people.
Might actually be pushing them away.
Pushing them away.
From traditional finance.
Away from the old system.
And towards these decentralized alternatives.
Like Anoma.
Which
are all about user control and flexibility.
That's the key point, right?
It is.
Anoma aligns with this shift.
It does.
It's not just about making finance more efficient. It's about giving users real privacy and control.
Real privacy, real control.
Something the traditional system just doesn't get.
It doesn't get it.
Okay, back to World War III resilience.
World War III resilience, yeah.
I'm still trying to process that.
It's a lot to process.
It's a dramatic statement.
It is dramatic.
But it makes you think about the weaknesses.
The weaknesses.
In our current financial system.
Right.
We depend so much on global networks.
Global network.
And these centralized institutions.
Centralized institutions.
What if something really bad happens?
Something really bad.
A major war.
A war?
A natural disaster.
A disaster.
A massive cyber attack.
A cyber attack.
The whole thing could fall apart.
It could.
Anoma's approach with those local instances.
Local instances.
It's like having a backup plan.
A backup plan.
For your finances.
For your money.
So even if the main system crashes.
It crashes.
Some communities can keep running.
They can keep going.
But are there other benefits to this resilience?
Other benefits. Yeah.
Beyond just surviving a catastrophe.
Beyond survival.
Think about places that don't have good banking systems. Bad banking systems.
Or countries with unstable governments. Or economies that are struggling.
Struggling economies.
Anoma could help those people.
I see.
By giving them access to a global financial system.
A system that's more stable.
More stable.
More inclusive.
Inclusive.
It's not just about surviving the apocalypse.
Not just the apocalypse.
It's about making finance work better for everyone.
For everyone.
Now, Brink also mentions something a little unsettling.
Unsettling.
How neobanks and fintech companies could be vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what?
To attacks, especially with the rise of AI.
Oh, AI, yeah. That's a real concern.
AI can create these deep fakes.
Deep fakes?
And synthetic identities.
Synthetic identities.
That are so realistic.
They're getting better and better.
It's becoming impossible to tell what's real and what's fake.
It's blurring the lines.
So all those know your customer rules.
Know your customer.
They might not be enough anymore.
They might not be enough.
Does this mean we can't trust our digital identities anymore?
That's a tough question.
It is.
But there's a solution.
Okay.
Self-custody.
Self-custody.
Brink is a big advocate for this.
What does that mean?
It means you hold your own private keys.
My own keys.
So you're not relying on some company.
I'm in control.
You're in control.
Well, it's like being your own bank.
Exactly. Yeah. You become your own bank.
This goes back to Anoma's focus on user empowerment.
User empowerment, yeah.
It's about shifting power away from these big institutions.
Away from the institution.
And back to the individual.
To the people.
And this ties into privacy too, right?
It does.
We usually think of privacy as hiding from corporations.
Hiding from corporations.
Or the government.
Or the government.
But it's also about protecting ourselves.
Protecting ourselves.
From bad actors, hackers, even governments sometimes.
It's about security.
It's like building a digital fortress.
A fortress.
Around your financial activity.
And around your money.
Not because you're doing anything shady.
Nothing shady.
Just because you want to be safe.
You want to be safe.
In a world where data breaches are happening all the time.
They happen all the time.
And cyber attacks are getting more sophisticated.
More sophisticated.
Okay, so how does Anoma balance this need for privacy?
The need for privacy.
With the concerns about illegal activity.
Yes, the classic argument against privacy.
It seems like a really tough balancing act. You want privacy, but you don't want to enable criminals.
You don't want to enable criminals.
So how do you find that balance?
That's the question.
Well, Anoma's approach is interesting.
Tell me more.
They give you the tools for privacy.
The tools are there.
But they don't force you to use them.
It's a choice.
It's your choice how private you want to be.
The power is in your hands.
It's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
No, it's flexible.
Okay, so back to Nomada.
Back to Nomada.
This blockchain built by the Anoma community.
The Anoma community.
That's all about privacy.
Privacy is key.
What makes it different from other privacy solutions?
Nomada offers this universal shielding.
Universal shielding.
For all kinds of assets.
All kinds.
It's like a privacy layer that sits on top.
On top of what?
Of existing blockchains.
I see.
So you can take your tokens. Your NFTs.
Yeah.
Even just random data. And put it into this shielded environment.
This private space.
So
instead of having separate privacy coins.
No need for privacy coins.
Nomada just lets you shield anything.
Anything you want.
How does that work technically?
It uses some pretty advanced cryptography. Things like zero-knowledge proofs. And secure multi-party computation.
Secure multi-party computation. Those sound complicated.
They are a bit complex.
Can you explain zero-knowledge proofs?
In simple terms.
Yes, please.
Okay, imagine you want to prove you have enough money. To buy something.
Okay.
But you don't want to say exactly how much you have.
Okay, I've been there.
Zero-knowledge proofs let you do that.
That's interesting.
You can prove something is true.
Okay.
Without revealing the details.
So it's like saying, trust me, I'm good for it.
Trust me, I'm good for it.
But you don't have to show your bank statement.
You don't have to show all your cards.
Okay, I'm starting to get it.
Good.
So how does this apply to Nomada?
Well, when you shield an asset on Nomada, you're basically creating a cryptographic proof that you own that asset.
Okay.
But without revealing any specific details.
About my holdings?
Or your transactions.
So it's like proving you own something.
Proving ownership.
Without showing the paperwork.
Exactly.
And what about secure multi-party computation?
Yes, multi-party computation.
Can you give me a real-world example?
Okay, let's say there's a decentralized auction happening.
An auction?
On Nomada.
On Nomada.
You want to bid on something.
Okay.
But you don't want anyone to know your bid. Your bid is secret.
That's cool.
Secure multi-party computation makes that possible.
Wow, so nobody knows how much you paid.
It's a true private auction.
A true private auction.
That's the power of Nomada.
It sounds like Nomada is really changing the game.
It's changing the game.
When it comes to privacy.
Privacy is the future.
But all this technology, it's only as good.
As good.
As the people behind it.
As the people.
What does Adrian Brink say about the Anoma community?
Brink really believes in the community. He sees Anoma as a collaborative project.
collaborative.
Not just driven by a few developers.
Not just developers.
It's about everyone working together.
Everyone working together.
Developers, users, researchers, everyone.
So the community has real power.
Real power.
To shape how Anoma develops.
To shape the future.
And Brink thinks this is essential for building a system that can adapt. And survive in the long run.
Survive and thrive.
And stay true to its users.
True to its users.
It's not just about building cool tech.
Not just cool tech.
It's about building a better future.
A better future.
Where people have more control.
More privacy. And more opportunity.
More opportunity.
To participate in a fair system.
A fair system.
That's a powerful message.
It is powerful.
But it reminds us that we're not just passive consumers.
Yeah, passive.
We can actually shape the future of technology.
Yeah, shape the future.
We've talked about the potential benefits of Anoma.
Yes.
Privacy, resilience, user control, all important.
But what about the potential downsides?
Ah, yes, the downsides.
Are there risks we need to consider?
There are always risks.
Like what?
Well, one concern is about accountability.
Accountability.
If we decentralize power,
is responsible if something goes wrong.
Who's responsible?
It's not always clear.
It can be a gray area.
And it's not just about malicious actors.
Not just bad guys.
Even with good intentions.
Good intentions.
There can be unintended consequences.
Unintended consequences.
We need to think about bias.
Discrimination.
The exclusion.
These things can still happen?
They can still happen.
Even in a decentralized system.
That's why it's so important to keep talking about this.
To keep talking.
Question everything. To look at it from all angles.
I'm glad we're having this conversation. It's not the deep dive. It's important to approach these topics critically.
To ask tough questions.
Questions.
And consider all the perspectives.
All perspectives.
So, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Wrap it up.
I want to leave our listeners with a thought. Anoma shows us a possible future. But it's up to us to decide what kind of future we want.
We decide.
It's a future where we could have more control.
Over
our data, our finances, our digital lives.
But it's a future that requires us to be active, engaged, and willing to challenge the way things are.
To challenge the status quo. Welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Back again.
We've been talking about Adrian Brink's vision of a decentralized future.
A decentralized future.
With Anoma, exploring its potential.
It has a lot of potential.
To change everything.
Everything.
From finance to how we control our own data.
Right.
But as we wrap things up.
Wrap it up.
What stood out to you so far?
What's really interesting to me is this tension between Anoma's big goals and the actual challenges of building something so complex.
Yeah.
It's like we're looking at this possible future. But the path to get there is really complicated.
That's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It's not just about understanding the tech. It's about thinking about the bigger questions. And then Anoma raises.
It raises a lot of questions.
Well, like Brink is so optimistic.
He's optimistic.
About decentralized systems.
Decentralization.
Making our lives better.
Right.
But is he right to be so optimistic?
That's the question.
Are we putting too much faith in technology to solve these really complex problems?
Technology is a tool.
Okay.
Like any tool. It can be used for good or bad.
That's true.
Anoma gives us the pieces. To build a more decentralized future. A fairer future.
Fair.
But it's up to us, the users, the developers, the community, to decide how this tech gets used.
So Anoma isn't a magic solution.
No magic solutions.
It's a platform.
A
set of tools and a community. With a shared vision. But making that vision real. It takes more than just code. It takes effort. Critical thinking. And being willing to challenge the way things are.
To challenge assumptions.
And that's why I like what Brink said.
What do you say?
About how important the community is. He sees Anoma as a collaboration. Not something controlled by a few people.
Not top down.
He thinks that by working together, we can create a system that's truly resilient
and
adaptable and reflects our values. So it's not just about building better tech.
It's bigger than that.
It's about building a better future.
A better future.
Where people have more control.
More control.
And that brings me to another question.
Okay.
We've talked about the good things about Anoma.
The benefits.
Privacy, resilience, empowerment.
Yeah.
But what about the downsides?
The downsides?
Are there risks?
There are always risks.
What kind of risks?
Well, one worry is about accountability.
Accountability.
If we spread power out. Spread the power.
Who's in charge if something goes wrong?
Who's responsible?
It's not always clear.
Not always clear.
And it's not just about people doing bad things on purpose.
Not just bad actors.
Even with good intentions.
Good intentions.
There can be problems we didn't expect.
Unforeseen consequences.
We have to think about bias. Discrimination,
exclusion. Those things can still happen.
They can?
Even in a system that's decentralized.
Even in a decentralized system.
That's why we need to keep talking about this.
Keep the conversation going.
Question everything.
Question everything.
Look at it from all sides.
I'm glad we're having this discussion on the deep dive.
Me too.
It's important to think critically. About these things. Ask the hard questions. And consider every point of view. So as we finish up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Anoma shows us a possible future. But it's up to us to decide what that future will look like.
We decide.
It's a future where we could have more control. Over our data, our finances, our digital lives.
But it's a future that needs us to be active. To be engaged. And to be willing to challenge the way things are.
To challenge the status quo. Well said, the future isn't something that just happens to us.
We make it.
We create it together.
Together.
So let's keep learning.
Keep
asking questions.
And questioning.
And keep pushing the boundaries.
Boundaries.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Anoma. We hope you found it insightful. Thought-provoking.
And
maybe even a little inspiring.